The aviation and aerospace industry comes back into focus this week as the 2022 edition of the ILA Air Show opens in Berlin. While the central topic of the show will be the development of the sector in 20 years, its present and near future prospects are riddled with uncertainty. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has slowed the post-pandemic recovery of the industry on a global level. But while international airlines have been minimally affected, harsh sanctions and isolation have hit Russian airlines the hardest, impacting both cargo and passenger traffic. Russian airlines are currently banned from flying to most countries in Europe and America since the start of the war. Due to the sanctions, companies like Aeroflot or S7 cannot receive spare parts and updated service manuals from companies like Airbus, Boeing or other Western suppliers, raising worries about the long-term safety of the Russian commercial and cargo fleets. For more on the state of the Russian aviation sector, I'm now joined by Stephen Wright. He's an industry professor specializing in aircraft engineering at Tampere University in Finland. Welcome to DW, Stephen. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency says it is very worried about the state of Western-made aircraft flying in Russia. Do you agree?
Yes, I do, actually. I think that EASA has made a very good judgment call, understanding that all aircraft need maintenance that's done to a specific standard. And if aircraft are operated outside of those standards, then this is a safety issue.
Let's take a look at Russia's maybe most prominent carrier here, Aeroflot. Out of its 187 planes, all but 10 are made by Airbus and Boeing, which cannot service these aircraft anymore. What does that mean? How do you keep these planes ready to fly?
That's a really interesting question and a big problem for anybody operating in an isolated area. Effectively, what they have to do is try to find parts from somewhere. And that's a massive problem at the moment because all aircraft, stuff goes wrong on them all the time. So you replace the parts that don't work. And the problem with Russia at the moment is they're not legally allowed to buy any spares from anywhere. So where do they get the bits? Even if they were able to take the boxes off, the parts off and fix them themselves, the paperwork will be incomplete because it will be maintained and done by stuff that's just not recognised. And this has a massive effect on the whole of the aircraft industry.
So basically you're saying even if people in the Russian aviation industry are able to fix the problem right now, it could mean trouble down the road.
Massive problems. For instance, these 500 planes that are being quarantined in Russia, none of the paperwork is now going to be compliant. So all the paperwork is held by the lessor. So these are the Russian airlines. And if the paperwork's not complete at the end of the lease, you really struggle to give the aircraft back to the bank. And then the next person that rents the aircraft, leases the aircraft, they're not going to be able to lease it because the paperwork's going to be incomplete. Stuff will be done that hasn't been done in accordance with EASA laws. That's why aviation's so safe. Everything is so well controlled, and there are no deviations.
Aviation has a strong history in Russia. What sort of future do you see for the sector in the country?
Well, this is going to have a massive knock-on effect because effectively, which bank is going to want to lease a $102 million asset to a country when they know that they might not ever see their asset come back at the end of it once the lease is finished? So where are they going to get the planes in the future? I mean, it's a massive problem.
Stephen Wright, aeronautics professor at Tampere University in Finland. Stephen, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And staying with the aviation sector, post-lockdown travel enthusiasm among people here in Europe could be seriously tainted this summer due to a serious staff shortage at airports. Our reporter went to Düsseldorf in the west of Germany to gauge the mood among employees and travelers.
The departures hall at Düsseldorf Airport. Passengers going through security screening have to be patient. It can take more than 4 hours. Scenes like this have occurred often in recent weeks, causing hundreds to miss their flights.
I'll be disappointed, very disappointed, because I paid money, so I'd like my services to be fulfilled.
My neighbor works at the airport, and he said it was because a lack of security personnel, and that's stupid. You pay a lot of money for your flight, so it's annoying if you miss it, especially since they laid off security staff during the pandemic.
A spokesperson for the German Aviation Association says the chaos at German airports is unfortunate, but little could have been done to prevent it.
The coronavirus pandemic has presented the industry with major economic challenges. Unfortunately, staff reductions were necessary. Some of them found jobs in other sectors. At the same time, after 2 years of the pandemic, demand for flights has soared, and COVID-19 restrictions were suddenly lifted, so it wasn't possible to plan properly for the relaunch.
Jose Tarim has a different view. The aviation expert advises members of the Verdi trade union who work for security at Düsseldorf Airport.
The state is ultimately responsible for this task, but puts it in the hands of private security companies. And of course, they want to earn money. They're not social organizations. And how can you cut costs? By keeping staff levels low. We have a serious staff shortage, especially in passenger screening. All passengers have to pass through security. Not enough people were hired, so now you're seeing the results. One major problem is that anybody working at the security screening or on the apron has to be trustworthy. The required background checks take at least 6 weeks, usually longer. So it's not possible to simply hire extra staff. It's a problem with dramatic consequences, as a security screening employee at a German airport explains. He wants to remain anonymous. You see the huge crowds of people in the terminals. At some point, it's not possible to keep up, like when we have to take a break. That isn't always given to us by the federal police or our employer. They just want to keep passengers flowing through security. And then air safety is no longer guaranteed. Meanwhile, Germany's leading airline, Lufthansa, blames sluggish ground handling for the recent cancellation of almost 1,000 flights. Anybody hoping to fly in the coming weeks will need to be patient.